This video will describe a new feature in ezEML that automatically adds annotations to the metadata to describe the units used in select numerical columns in data tables. This capability is made possible by the excellent work of the EDI Units Working Group, who've been working on this for several years and have published the paper shown here, describing their methods and findings. Their work involved analyzing the complete corpus of data packages held by EDI, Data One, and Neon, and they developed the mapping files and reference software that ezEML uses to enable this new feature. So it is thanks to them and their work that this feature is possible. So what are annotations? They are precisely defined semantic statements that provide information about a metadata element. And here we're going to be looking at annotations specifically applied to numerical data table columns, which EML refers to as attributes. In particular, the annotations can be used to provide precise information about the units in which a measurement is expressed, a measurement in a numerical data table column. A given unit can be expressed in a variety of ways in human readable form. And what the units annotation does is indicate a corresponding precise equivalent, a representation that then aids machine readability, automation, interoperability, and so on. We'll see some examples in a minute. So there are various ontologies, as they're called, that can be used that provide the kinds of precise representations needed. Ontologies generally are sort of formal vocabularies that represent the concepts and relationships in a specific domain to enable consistent understanding and data interoperability. There are various ontologies in different subject domains, and in particular, there are ontologies for representing units. One such ontology is QUDT, stands for quantities, units, dimensions, and types. This ontology specifically examines or represents units, and it was initially developed at NASA, but now is its own standalone organization. The uh, uh, the Because of the origin of QUDT in the NASA domain, it's the coverage of units is probably most complete in areas related to engineering, aerospace, and so on. But there is quite a bit of overlap with units used in ecological and environmental data sets uh, and that overlap will increase over time. The units working group is working with QUDT to get them to add the most commonly used units that are currently unrepresented, but that are commonly used in environmental data sets. So the what ezEML will do is add QUDT units annotations where such where the mapping to a QUDT unit is unambiguous and extremely high confidence. In other words, the mapping is very conservative. If ezEML puts in an annotation, it's almost guaranteed, or pretty much is guaranteed to be correct. So let's take a look at what it looks like in ezEML. The First of all, there is in the settings page, there are new settings pertaining to the automatic QUDT units annotations. The one setting says that you want the annotations added automatically where available. That the default setting for that will be true. It will be checked by default. You can uncheck it if you like. And there's another setting which says if there are pre-existing QUDT units annotations, replace them. That is not checked by default, that you can make your choice there. Whatever settings you put, and this is true of the settings page generally, they are persistent. You come back, tomorrow or a year from now in your ezEML account, and the settings will be as you left them. As we'll see in a minute, excuse me, and as we'll see in a minute, you can ezEML will give you the opportunity to review the annotations that it has added and either accept or reject them. So these, no matter how you've set the settings, you will get the chance to uh, review and override annotations if you so desire. But let's leave it with the default settings and take a look at an example. So I have open here a particular package. How do I see? So because here, let me go, I'll just open it again. Because I had the option set to add the annotations automatically, when I open it, they will be added if they're not already there. So the annotations have been added. How do I see them? I go to check metadata, and now there's a link, review QUDT units annotations. I go there, and it shows me for each table, each data table in the package, it shows me the numerical columns for which QUDT QUDT units annotations have been added. So this won't be all columns. In particular, it's only numerical columns, and it's only those numerical columns for which a extremely high confidence mapping to the QUDT unit has been found. So, for example, in this package we're looking at, the unit as it was entered by the user was Celsius. It could have been represented in various ways. It could have been Celsius with a capital C. It could have been centigrade. It could have been degrees Celsius. It could have been DEG underscore C, or there's a number of human readable ways to represent that, and they all map to the same QUDT code, DEG underscore C. In this page, the QUDT codes are hyperlinks. So if you click on one, it'll open a new tab and take you to the corresponding page on the QUDT site that shows you the information about the unit, in this case Celsius. And you see that there's all kinds of information here about the unit, what units systems is it part of. There's this notion of quantity kind, which lists various kinds of measurements that are represented using the Celsius unit. So, for example, boiling point, flash point, melting point, or temperature more generally, and so on. There's information about conversions between different units, etc. So now going back to ezEML, we see that because we had selected the option to add the annotations automatically, they have been added, but we have for each one, we have the ability to reject it if we don't agree. In this case, it seems clear that Celsius should in fact map to degrees Celsius, to DEG underscore C. So we're happy to accept that. And let's say there was one we didn't accept. It's this milligrams per liter. This also looks like a perfectly good mapping, but let's say we wanted to reject it. We click reject. The page refreshes. Come back down to it. The one I rejected now is shown with a strike through. It's crossed out, so it's no longer contained in the metadata, but it's still here in the table so that I can change my mind if I like. I can accept it and put it back in. Or if we had if our settings were such that the unit annotations are not added automatically, then they would all be shown here with, they would all be crossed out and you'd have the option to accept them. So you can accept it one by one, or you can accept all of them for a table all at once. Let me just accept it, put it back in. The page refreshes, and there it is. Oops, there it is. It's back in. All right. So that's what it looks like in ezEML. The what does it look like in the EML, the metadata? So what are these annotations? Let's what I'll do is I'll download the XML, the EML, and open it in, this is Oxygen, which is in the XML editor. You can use the editor of your choice, and I'll find an annotation. Here's one. That's what it looks like. And this is under the attribute uh, that is the column water temperature in degrees C at 3 meters. Now the besides adding the annotation, uh, ezEML has added an ID for the attribute because for annotations you have to have an ID. If an ID had already been there because it had been the EML had been edited outside of ezEML, that existing annotation would be left alone. But if there's none is there, ezEML adds one. And the excuse me, the annotation, a QUDT annotation always looks like this. It has a property URI, has unit with a URI, a uniform resource identifier pointing to uh, this predicate, as it's called, this relationship has unit on the in the QUDT ontology. And what is the unit? It's degrees Celsius. And here's the actual URI for that particular unit, degrees Celsius, at QUDT.org. So all the annotations that have been added by ezEML will look like that. Now going back to ezEML, the what does this look like in the data portal? Um, we have there's a feature in ezEML that you can preview your metadata in the data portal. If we do that, it opens preview in the new tab. If I scroll down to data entities and down to the table we were looking at, which was here, this has unit degrees Celsius has unit. We see that the annotations are represented in that's how they're going to look in the data portal. All right, so let me look at just a couple other examples here. Again, so I just opened a new package. If I go to check metadata, review QUDT unit annotations, and here we see some other units. So some of them are quite specific, microsiemens per centimeter, for example. Dimensionless, that could be there are various human readable ways of representing that, but they would all map to unitless, which is the QUDT version of that, the representation of that. Another example, uh, okay, this one, I had opened this before and rejected all of the units. So let me accept them all. All right, now they'll be in my metadata and micrograms per gram. Okay, now a more interesting or different, more complicated example is the following. This one, if I look at this is so EDI 320.3. If I look at the version of that this was edited and outside of ezML and added to the EDI repository. And because it was edited outside of ezML, it has annotations other than QUDT ones, other than the ones that would be added by ezEML. And if I look at it in the EML editor, I see, for example, here's an annotation that was not a QUDT one. It's this one, the property, the predicate is contains measurements of type, and it points to a different ontology, this oboe ontology, which is a neon thing, I believe. Anyway, it's here it is. Oh, NCs. So anyway, that's the ontology. And if I come back to the EML, it has the predicate was contains measurements of type, and the actual unit or the value was latitude coordinate. All right. Now, if I look at the uh, if I've taken that, so I'm coming back to ezML now. If I've opened this in ezML and I have the option selected to add QUDT units annotations, if I go look at that, we'll see that, for example, that latitude, it has added a degree unit annotation. So now if I look at the EML as it has been generated by ezEML, we see that the annotation that was there that pointed to the oboe ontology contains measurements of type, latitude coordinate. That's still there, but it has been supplemented with this QUDT annotation that describes the unit. Specifically, it says that the unit is degree. So the point of all that is that if you um, do use ezML to do a revision of a package that had been edited outside of ezML and has a different flavor of annotations, those annotations will be preserved and just will be supplemented by the QUDT annotations that ezEML was able to add. And again, just will stress that the QUDT annotations that are added are only the ones that are very high confidence. That's the working group, their work. They identified exactly the mappings that could be trusted with extremely high confidence to be correct. And just one last thing, if I look at that, if I generate the preview of how it's going to look in the um, data portal, EDI data portal, and I scroll down, we see that the latitude, it shows the old, the pre-existing annotation that contains measurements of type, latitude, coordinate, and also the new QUDT has unit degree annotation. So it all looks exactly as we would hope. All right, so that's the new feature, and as always, there's help describing it all, and as always, we invite and welcome any feedback and comments. If you uncover any problems, et cetera, please let us know at support@edidepository.org. Thank you.